Japanese scary stories. Thank you for opening this video. I would be very happy if you could let me know in the comments what you think could be improved, what you liked, or what you would like to hear so that we can deliver better videos. Please lend force. Thank you. Please also subscribe to the channel. The rural crematorium. When I was in middle school, my uncle shared a story with me. This event took place several decades ago in a small town with a population of about 10,000 people. My uncle was a local government employee in this small town. Incidentally, I also lived in that town until I was 18 years old. Geographically, the town was surrounded by mountains to the north and flatlands to the south. Being a rural area with a sparse population, the entire town was characterized by vast farmlands. At the foot of the largely uninhabited mountain was the town's public crematorium. Unlike burials, cremation is the standard practice in Japan, where the deceased are cremated. Therefore, the crematorium was easily identifiable by its prominent chimney. Residents would notice the smoke rising from the chimney and realize that someone had passed away. In a small town with limited entertainment options, the locals took an unusual interest in the life events of their fellow townspeople, including weddings and funerals. As a result, they would often visit the homes of local government employees, like my uncle, to inquire, "Who died yesterday?" Back then, the concept of privacy and personal data protection was virtually non-existent. Local government employees would casually share what they knew. Consequently, as soon as a death certificate was submitted and a cremation permit was issued at the town office, residents would start gossiping. "I heard someone from the Dashura district passed away." Information about the crematorium's activities was particularly accurate among the surrounding residents. If someone heard a rumor about a death, they would confirm it by seeing smoke rising from the chimney a few days later. However, a strange phenomenon began occurring at some point. Residents reported seeing smoke coming from the chimney without hearing any prior news of a death. Initially, people thought it might be due to repairs or testing of new equipment at the crematorium. However, over 6 months, smoke appeared 6 times without any reported deaths or submitted death certificates. This struck people as highly unusual. Moreover, the smoke appeared outside of normal operating hours, early in the morning, late at night, or even on days when the crematorium was closed. Suspicious, the neighboring residents shared their concerns with my uncle. He found it odd as well and decided to investigate. He and some residents took turns keeping a distant watch on the crematorium, particularly during late-night hours. One morning around 5 a.m., the crematorium manager arrived, followed shortly by a van entering the premises. The residents on watch saw coffins being unloaded from the van, and the individuals doing so had menacing appearances, suggesting they might be from the criminal underworld. The manager seemed accustomed to dealing with these people and even assisted with the unloading. As they continued their surveillance, they noticed the crematorium's incinerator being lit and operations beginning. A few minutes later, they heard faint screams coming from the direction of the incinerator. The residents were so terrified that they fled to their homes as quickly as possible. Since then, even if suspicious smoke was seen rising from the chimney, no one spoke about the crematorium again. Some things are better left unknown. The moaning voice on the rice field path. My childhood home is deep in the countryside, surrounded by rice fields and mountains. Even today, the scenery around my home hasn't changed much. It was a place that became pitch dark at night, but I loved it dearly. After graduating high school, I was fortunate enough to receive a recommendation to attend a university in the metropolitan area. Although I was anxious about living alone far from home, the support from my parents and neighbors, along with the friends I made at university, made my new life smooth and enjoyable. Before I knew it, my first summer vacation at university had arrived, and I decided to return to my hometown to share my experiences. Perhaps I was a bit too excited, as I was thoroughly enjoying my new life. I arrived at the nearest station to my home around 11 p.m., and it was about a 40-minute walk from there. I thought about asking my parents to pick me up, but I didn't want to trouble them so late at night, so I decided to walk home. The streetlights along the way were sparse, but it was a straight walk down a narrow national road with almost no traffic, making it a safe route home. Initially, I walked with high spirits, but as I passed by eerie places, like a graveyard for the unknown dead and a tunnel, I began to feel increasingly uneasy. It felt embarrassing to call my parents for help, and I didn't want to be questioned about it later, so I pressed on. The odd event occurred about 10 minutes away from home. As I walked along a path flanked by rice fields with no streetlights, I thought I heard a moaning sound. At first, I brushed it off as my imagination and tried to walk faster, but the sound persisted. "Oh!" The low voice came from the direction of the rice fields. Given the presence of deer and boars in the area, it could have been a wild animal, but it was unmistakably human. As I continued walking, the voice grew louder. In movies and dramas, characters scream when frightened, but I found myself frozen in place, unable to move. "Ooh!" The moaning grew louder, and at that moment, I broke into a run. The voice continued to haunt me as I ran frantically away from the spot. When I finally reached home, my parents greeted me and had a late dinner prepared. The relief of being home and reuniting with my parents helped calm my fear. I decided to wait until the next day to tell them about what had happened and went to bed. The next day, around noon, I heard sirens. In our town, the authorities use sirens to announce important news, and the message was, "The missing elderly woman has been found." Not understanding what this meant, I asked my parents. They told me that an elderly woman from the neighborhood, who had been suffering from dementia, had gone missing. This news shocked me. What was even more shocking was that her body was found in the irrigation canal of the rice fields I had walked past the night before. So, the moaning I heard, I never told anyone about this. Sometimes I wonder if I ignored a life I could have saved, and this guilt haunts me in my dreams. The Stranger's Car. This is a story from my childhood when I was in elementary school. The school I attended was about a 30-minute walk from my home, located along the seaside. Every day, I would walk to and from school, passing a large two-lane road with the school situated on the ocean side. I always walked with a group of 3 or 4 friends, and we would chat about the latest trends and our studies, making the journey enjoyable. It was the summer of my 3rd grade year. As usual, I was waiting for my friends at the school grounds exit before heading home together. A white K car pulled up in front of me, and the driver, a middle-aged man, kept glancing at me. He was short for an adult, even while sitting in the car, and wore a cap with a logo on it. His skin was slightly tanned, and he appeared to be in his late 40s to early 50s from a child's perspective. The man rolled down his window and leaned over from the driver's seat to the passenger seat, saying, "Hey, your dad got injured and was taken to the hospital. I'm his friend, and I'll take you there in this car." I was shocked to hear that my father had been taken to the hospital. But I had never seen this man before. He was a complete stranger. Being told to get in his car left me paralyzed with fear. At that moment, my friends arrived, and seeing me talking to the man, he seemed to grow impatient. "Hurry up, or your dad will be waiting," he shouted. When we still didn't respond, he tried to persuade us further. "Your dad asked me to bring you to him." Despite being only 3rd graders, we had enough sense to know that getting in the car was dangerous. About 10 minutes after the conversation started, the man moved his car a little and shouted, "Get in!" before closing the window and driving away. As I watched the car drive off, I felt a mix of guilt for not getting in and relief for avoiding the stranger's trap. When I got home, I found my parents safe and sound. The man's story was a lie. We reported the suspicious encounter to the school and the police station. My parents repeatedly told me how glad they were that I didn't get in the car. The next day at school, the teacher issued a warning. There have been reports of a suspicious man trying to lure children into his car in this area, she said. The suspect was described as a short man wearing a cap, driving a white K car and telling children their father was injured and needed them to come with him. It was the same man who had approached us the day before. The teacher also mentioned that a child who had been deceived into getting into the car was now missing, and the police were searching for them. I don't remember how the case was resolved, but I hope the perpetrator was caught and the missing child was found safe. If I had gotten into that white K car and been kidnapped, the thought still sends shivers down my spine. Verse.